90% of New Year's resolutions don't come true, by the way. Oh, I want to work out 5 times, 7 times a week. Let me buy this nice membership and I'll never go to the gym. I don't know that, but like a year later, I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, actually, I never used this. And I had 6 projects with Google being my client. I just networked my way into the company. Laziness is a form of a limiting belief. The reason people are lazy because they're too kind to themselves. The biggest difference is people that actually don't write down those resolutions but start making actionable steps towards their success, wherever the little goal. They don't even have to have a goal, but you have to make a step forward.
Sublime Podcast.
Hey guys, look at where we are. This is at the top of San Francisco, and we got the Bay Bridge, and we've also got, I would say, comparably or even more mind-blowing guest of mine, who you probably know by now, Yuliya Bazyleva, who is a marketing scientist, and she's also waiting for her team to get a new member. She's actually due today, so anytime, everything can go haywire, and she's about to become mom. Yeah, but while it's happening, she's trying to enjoy the last 3 days of belonging to herself, and talk about personal growth, talk about data-driven decisions, talk about how working for corporations that are primarily data-driven can translate and transfer to helping other people grow in whatever goals they want to achieve, and also talk about the way she uses data in her life. And it's not just about talking about this, but also it's about being what you preach. So where do you want to start with this?
It's a great starting point about being, not just preaching. I think that's the biggest gap between making smart decisions in your life, or making any decisions in period, versus just setting goals and never being able to achieve them. So I think my biggest learning in life is just do. Yeah. Literally just do. Because you don't have to have all the knowledge in life. You don't have to have all the experience and the blueprint and the framework. You just kind of have to go with the flow. And as you roll with that flow, you will make mistakes. You'll learn a ton, but you'll make progress. And I think that's the key to success in life. There's a study done on people that write down their New Year's resolutions. 90% of New Year's resolutions don't come true, by the way.
That's true. And that's one of the reasons why the membership at the gym is most expensive in January. And then after February, it kind of tapers down. Because starting February, it's empty again.
And that is so smart on them. Oh, I want to work out 5 times, 7 times a week. Let me buy this nice membership and I'll never go to the gym. I don't know that, but a year later, I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, actually, I never used this membership. And so the gyms are empty, and people become resentful and sad, disappointed in themselves. And so that's the study. And the biggest difference is people that actually don't write down those resolutions, but start making actionable steps towards their success, wherever the little goal. They don't even have to have a goal, but you have to make a step forward. Mm-hmm. Now, as you thinking about becoming a true leader in a large organization or building your own company and managing many facets of your life, you have to be more strategic and prioritize what goals, North Stars you want to go towards. And that's where it becomes more important to set those goals and prioritize what's most important. But for anybody to just advance themselves, literally just get yourself out there in the running shoes and go run. That's the best starting point. Yeah. Best action you can take.
While that sounds exciting and encouraging, and also a bit vague and abstract, let's get to some real life examples. And I want you to talk about how you applied those very same principles to your life. So can you tell an actual story where you went out and took few first steps without knowing whether it's the right direction or not, and then you were able to correct yourself as you go?
The biggest, most relevant example is coming to the United States, you know, it just kind of starts with like, I have a dream. I want to be somewhere that's nicer, where I can develop myself, grow, have more resources, live a better life, get paid more. So you just have that as a dream, and it's so far that you can't even think about, but you just write it down somewhere and kind of forget about it. But you have that emotion, that desire, like it's an inner itch, scratch that you need, inner itch that you need to scratch. And so that was my dream. And, you know, I start thinking like, hey, how can I do it? And I applied for a work and travel program as part of my university back in Belarus. And I came here on that program for a summer just to see and experience. And then from there, I start making advancements and steps forward on actually immigrating to the United States. So that's one example. And so the takeaway there is like, okay, you have that, you know, itch that you want to scratch, something, some emotional desire to achieve something. And so it's really important to act on that desire. And when you start making the steps, they might be very clumsy steps. It might not work out in the first attempt, second attempt, but you just need to keep going at it. And that's what I did, and it happened. Same is true for my job at Google. I had it as a very far-reached dream. I had no idea how I'm going to do it. And so eventually, you know, I was like, this is not even possible. But eventually, like, I was just thinking about it. What can I do? But not like obsessed, but just kind of like, oh, you know, I'm going to try this and this. And I was at a consulting firm called Accenture. And I thought, well, what if I have Google as a client? I'll learn how they operate, and maybe they'll hire me full time. So that's what I did. And I had 6 projects with Google being my client. I just networked my way into the company. I worked with the managing directors that managed that account, which was a large account, but it was like hard to penetrate into. And then I was like, well, let me offer my free consulting services to develop a business case for them to sell into Google. And then eventually I got staffed to be on that project to provide the actual services to Google. And then from there, people liked my work and they made a referral. And so that's how I got in as a full-time. So it's just all this like test and iterate mindset, which is a great a data scientist tool. Yeah. You run a series of little experiments. But again, the key there is just to do it and apply your learnings for future iterations.
You mentioned a lot of really interesting talking points here. One very useful skill in life overall is networking. And you mentioned that you purposefully wanted. So I think having data it's worth everything you can possibly pay for it. So you worked at a company who had access to where you wanted to be, and you purposely put yourself in the position that exposed you to some decision makers within Google. So on the networking side, what to have like any specific approach to like networking with people? Because everyone is busy, everyone doesn't know who you are. How do you build connections? How do you build your reputation and your value in the eyes of people who are maybe all the way like above in this ladder?
For me, building connections feels so natural and easy now, but I remember myself a few years ago where I would be terrified to walk up to a CEO or somebody important like a speaker at the conference and try to connect with them genuinely. And so I think there's like 2 things that are really important. One is, can you connect genuinely? Naturally? They're just another person with their set of, you know, dreams, goals, fears, moments where they're stuck. And so can you start the conversation in the most natural way and be like, hey, it's really hot in this conference room, or, you know, oh, I love the snacks. or like, I can't imagine how much pressure you've been getting just having to talk to all the people at the conference. So it puts them at ease and makes them feel more comfortable. But, even saying, hey, how are you? How's your day? Conference is like a place where everyone wants to connect. So being genuine is like number one. Number two is not everyone knows it, and I'm not always good at it, but I think that's what smart networkers do, is like, think about what is it that you really want, right? And that's where we come to this concept of why, or data-driven leadership is like, do you know exactly what you need, what you can accomplish, how you can connect the dots between the resume and the context of this person that you're trying to network with versus your own context and goals, and make it a very valuable exchange for the both parties, right? So, I offer this, and I think that'll be really interesting to you. And make sure to follow through on that. So that's number two. And I think then the third one was like, are you in the right place where it's meant to network? Like being at the conference, being at the meetup, knowing where those locations are, where the high quality people are. Like, are you going to the private club? Like a Modernist in San Francisco, the Battery? And is this the environment that promotes that professional connection, or the connection in the right context? You might be networking to find good tennis partners, so just go to the gym or the bake club. So those are the three things I would say. Like, can you genuinely connect with the person in the context that's relevant to them? Two is, are you intentional about your connection and the conversation that you're going to have? What's the value exchange? And then three is this the environment where people actually network and the high quality individuals meet and talk about business opportunities or whatever relevant topics that you want to tackle?
I love it. Very useful advice. I think number two, and you mentioned as well that it's maybe the most difficult out of all those bullet points. It might feel intimidating when you talk to someone like really high rank, and like, what can you as not an insider, just, like in your case, you were just a consultant at least for the initial 6 projects, as you mentioned, right? What can you as a consultant offer them that they cannot get, firstly, within the company for free from one of their subordinates, or they could have gotten from any other resources? Because say if you're talking to like somebody like a chief level or VP level, they do have access to other consulting companies. They do have access to all kind of training and so on. So I think there's differences in statuses, right? So even though it's an artificial environment, differences in statuses can be intimidating. So how do you cut through that social conditioning about like the differences in statuses, and how do you figure out how I can help to somebody who is probably more knowledgeable and more connected than you are?
So knowing what they need help with is key. It can come naturally just from knowing the industry. It should really come from the conversation with them. But understanding what kind of help would they need would benefit them the most is key. So in my case, managing directors, I getting paid for selling the business. That means they have to come up with a statement of work. They have to scope out the engagement with the potential client and sell through that idea to that client. And so that work is not actually paid, it's free. And so within the large consulting firm, who does that work? Managing director, because that's how they gold. And then a bunch of analysts, their job is really to be on the paid hours by the client. So I offer my free time to do unpaid work to help them with that business development, to help that build business case and sell through the new engagement for the clients. And that was the key value that was useful for those higher rank individuals within my corporation. And I didn't really reinvent the wheel or like read a complex book, taken a course on this. I was just like, hey, if you have any business development work, like I have some free time and I'm very passionate about this topic, I'd love to support you in that effort. And so it's like very generic, but it would make them perk their ears because they're like, oh, I get free help. It's nice.
Yeah. I think the principle here is if you can give pretty much anything, it's like if you have like charitable mind and you're willing to do something for people without expecting much in return. Because, well, yeah, you can help them hoping that they can get something, give something back to you, but not necessarily. Like they don't really owe you anything, right? So it's not a contract, right? But I do believe that this charitable mindset helps you establish yourself as a valuable asset, be it a corporation or be it an element of a society. And then when people see that you can do things for free without expecting much in return, they kind of want to reciprocate. Okay, so that's one principle. And then also we kind of talked about this the other day. You probably have a framework figuring out if the person you are talking to is going to reciprocate at some point, or are they more on the side of just either small talking to you and trying to be polite? So do they mean what they do, or are they, which is even worse, are they just there to take value without giving anything back? So how do you, at some point you will need to cut people off, I guess. So do you have a framework for this?
I think having a good alignment on values and goals is really important. If you know your counterpart is working on an interesting project that you would like to build your expertise in, technically you're not really doing the work for free. You're being educated. Right? You learn about the industry, you're doing user research, or you're trying to get a full-time job with them, whatever it is. So that's the value add from upfront. So I think just having a bit of a hunch and intuition, like this is going to be really useful for me. I also think offering that help upfront without asking for anything in return, it's fine, but don't be afraid to close the deal in the end and ask for that help. So just know what is that alignment? How can you help each other? If it's an introduction or a referral, something that's not too of a heavy lift for them, they'll be happy to do it. Especially people that have built their careers in the corporate world or have been founders for a really long time. They know the value of giving back to the community, and I would just trust that if you work with people that have success behind their shoulders, that have a lot going on for them, they'll help you back. Having that trust is important as well. Just like, I love the concept of charitable mindset, like you said. It's brilliant. It's being genuinely interested in helping other person without expecting anything back. I think that's key, because as soon as you start bringing your agendas up front and you're like, hey, I'm going to do this for you, can you do this for me? That's going to kill that authenticity in the relationship, and that's going to make them feel more guarded.
Right. If it feels like it's quid pro quo, then it's not really genuine. Okay. Also, guys, I want to mention a very interesting fact that Yuliya's nails color matches the color of the microphone.
I know, it's all serendipitous. We're expecting a baby girl, so maybe it's all the signs in the air.
Wonderful. So, taking this approach within corporations, were you able to get something out of like usual day-to-day communications? Like, say you're going to grocery store, you're going to like um, a bar. So it's a very unassuming environment where people are communicative. At the same time, they're not there to like meaningfully network, and they're not there to get stuff done, and they don't expect any kind of value exchange. They're just there to have fun, which is a bit more difficult to solidify after. So I'll say it's a very different environment if you are talking to somebody at work, and then there is expectation that if you commit to something, you need to deliver. And then you're meeting somebody in person first time, somewhere at a very unassuming environment, and they can promise you like mountains and sky and everything and the moon, but tomorrow they are gone. Okay? So I want to see if you had any data-driven experimentation done when you talk to fully random people, total strangers, and you were able to carry over those conversations into future and maybe build connections, make friends this way.
You make my data science brain go back and like try to pull that representative sample of all the people that I've connected with. I want to bring a good study here, but I don't have one. I would say the takeaway is still being intentional, right? Like, I have fallen into the trap of making so many friends, so many connections, thinking that, oh, they're going to yield this outcome and that outcome. And then, like, you get busy, you go to another conference. People are like, okay, I'm going to do this for you. Let's launch this project together. And then there's no follow through. So I think the reason that happens, looking back at my own stories, is there's a lack of intention or commitment to that specific project. So the best, most productive relationships happen when there's a very natural way to, be in that community because it's focused around that interest, your profession, or the project that you're really trying to tackle. So like hackathons, for example, if you go to a hackathon, you're an entrepreneurial mindset, you build in a solution within like few hours, and you have this random team that you just got assigned to. And so that's such a good way to network and get value out of each other because you're all working towards the same goal. You all know you want to be entrepreneurs and build a team, and so that's that relationship will follow through. I think if you are part of the coaching community, so that's something that's been very valuable for me. It's very niche and very focused on that one goal of us building up our coaching skills, but it just opened up the world of opportunities for myself and other coaches because, well, we're working on sharpening our skills, but we all have valuable expertise and experience in other areas of life, and people are so much more open and engaged to support each other because we feel like we're swimming in the same lane. So I think the best success you'd have is like, what is your purpose, project or topic, area of interest that you focus on? Can you join a club with a clear goal and an outcome? And as you network there, the quality of those relationships will be much higher than at any other just a random networking event. I think you asking this because like so many times we're all like the idea of this fancy conference that offers a promise of many.
Yeah, they're so ephemeral. Like you meet so many people and then they're just disappearing into the void after.
100% happen to me all the time, especially if you go from one conference to another every other week. And so you just, if it's not 100% relevant to your job or your primary occupation or hobby, whatever it is that you're doing like every other day, or once a week, like it'll be harder to maintain those relationships and actually get value of them. So be very intentional about what is your niche, what is your area of focus that you really want to dial in on, and then that's the meetup, club, community, or conference that you go to.
Awesome. Okay, and I want to touch another topic which I think is extremely fruitful and something we talked about yesterday. It's when you coach people, your favorite question is, what is your why, right? And I think we live in times in our progress, technological progress and everything, where it's very easy to just get comfortable in postponing things, in enjoying some distractions. Social media comes as an example here. It's just living in the moment, but that moment is not really a progression somewhere. This moment is just, I feel comfortable right now and I don't want to change anything. Okay, so pretty much all of us have our whys, but this mindset of I can do it tomorrow means that you will never do it. Okay, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because yesterday I went to get an MRI, which so happened is in the cancer clinic, and I've seen a lot of cancer patients. Not all of them are super old, and unfortunately, this realization that hey, our life is so short, and not taking action on your dreams and goals sometimes can mean that you will not be able to achieve anything at all. You will be just comfortable in getting your morning pumpkin spice latte, right, and checking your Instagram, and then bam, suddenly you are in the hospital and it's time to wrap up. So when you coach people, how do you motivate them to stand up and take action on their why?
The coaching really is effective when it's consists of 3 parts. Mm-hmm. So the why piece, it's really 80% of the work.
Okay.
Right? It's like, what is it that really drives my behavior? What really makes me wake up in the morning? Mm-hmm. Is it the idea of coffee? Is it the idea of talking to somebody? Is it the scary alarm? Like, everyone has their own little triggers. So like waking up in the morning is like a simple example, but what is your trigger for wanting to work out, and like what that really moves you? Mm-hmm. So that's a really important piece. So 80% of my work with my clients, coaching clients, is revolving around that, understanding that why. The second part, which we think should be the largest part of the pie, but it's very small portion, is like, what are the behaviors and the frameworks, the next actionable steps that I should take to get closer to my goal. So that's like a very short, because we like to think in like step by step, bullet points, to-do lists that never gets done. It's like we're like all trained to do that. The third piece is really important, and I think that's what you were asking. So how do you actually make people get stuff done? So just asking yourself, how do I make myself accountable towards that action? And so the key is to really sit down and think, well, how? People are like, I'm going to add it to my calendar. I'm like, no, that doesn't. If it's on your calendar, are you really going to get it done or not? So asking it 3 times, it's called integration, right? So how do you integrate your commitments to yourself? So like, sometimes it's just having a conversation with your friend happens to be in that industry. And so can you make that phone call tomorrow? Can you sit down tonight and write a letter to your mom? I don't know. Can you buy that domain? What is the smallest step that you can take that will show that you're really accountable towards your goal? It needs to be a small step. So the why, knowing what the goal is, what motivates you to get there. Knowing the step by step is easy, but like, how do you keep yourself accountable? That integration has to happen on 3 levels. I'm gonna, do this, but then thinking like, well, actually, is it gonna happen or not?
Yeah.
How do I really make myself accountable? What's the least action that I can do today? As soon as I get out of this call, they'll get me closer to my goal.
I think you are uncovering one of the true values of the coaching, of the mentorship. It's not about the advice that we all can get. Like, there are so many resources where you can get advice on career growth, personal growth for free. It's that your mentor becomes kind of babysitter for you. So somebody, not in the context of like physical presence, but in the context of this adult who is responsible for keeping you accountable for what you're talking about. You see, and having somebody who is going to ask you, "Hey, have you done? What's your progress on that?" is probably one of the most bulletproof ways. And especially if this adult is knowledgeable about unblocking you, figuring out why the progress is not happening, and so on. That's probably where the value of the coaching is. So my next question to you would be, when you work with your clients, you've probably accumulated a bunch of data about biases, about blockers, about some desire to not take action or postpone things. So can you talk about some maybe common reasons why people postpone actioning? Because actioning is the most important part of those 3-step or 3-component progression. And what would be the common ways to overcome those, the desire to postpone or being blocked by something?
I actually want to challenge that concept that actioning is the most important part. There is a reason why we're not taking the action. We're not prioritizing something.
Okay.
And that's where the value of coaching really is helping you understand yourself better. What is in the way? So the hardest piece of work is doing the self-reflection and facing your own fear or limiting belief that really prevents you from taking that step. It could be journaling, but it's journaling intentionally with this, like, what, I have that fear, like I really admitting it, that is my fear. It could be a fear of success. So why am I really not comfortable with success? Because people will judge me, because it'll take all of my time. And so then just really noodling on that idea and the concept and uncovering and unpacking it. So that's where the biggest piece of work is self-reflection, being self-aware of what's going on within you. What are your shadows? What's preventing you from taking that next step? Once you really understand it, like, you'll have like a little bit of a lightning bulb turning on in your head, and you're like, oh, I had no idea that's what it was. And then you reframe it, and then it'll be much easier to take the action.
Okay. So you think that, based on your experience, the most common reason for people to not take action is because they have some limiting beliefs or scares that they need to overcome and acknowledge first, kind of discover in themselves, overcome, and removing them, you see people taking action. What do you do with just laziness?
Laziness. You just gotta kick yourself in the ass sometimes. Laziness is a form of a limiting belief. Okay. The reason people are lazy because they're too kind to themselves, too compassionate. They're like, oh, I don't want to put myself through suffering. I don't want to wake up too early. It's dark. It's uncomfortable. You'll make me feel unhealthy if I wake up too early. Like they think those things, and like they actually genuinely believe that they take care of themselves by being lazy. And so that's a limiting belief. So like just sit there and think like, what actually makes me lazy? Maybe I'm overworked. Maybe I'm overcommitted. Maybe I don't have the right boundaries for everything else in my life. I don't know how to prioritize stuff. Maybe I'm afraid to be in the cold, in the wild. That's why we're lazy. There's always a reason for why. And, coaching is great because it really puts a lot of value on that human potential and resourcefulness of the person on the other side of the table, of the coachee, the client. Like, I'm 100% certain that every one of my clients that I work with, they're like, have so much talent, so many resources, and so much potential to get to their next step because they already have gotten so far. So it's something else that's preventing them from getting to the next level. And I help them uncover their own resources and potential.
That's a very interesting take, and I think it's going to raise lots of questions. If you guys agree that laziness is a limiting belief, and there are reasons why people are lazy, then leave a comment. You also, while people have you, maybe you can offer like free 15 minutes consultation, and we'll put the link in the comments.
30 minutes.
30 minutes, free 30 minutes consultation with Yuliya. And I believe you're going to spend a lot of time at home in next maybe half a year at least. And therefore scheduling like a Zoom call or a Google Hangout would be a way to go.
Committing to an action in whatever easiest way is really important. I think committing to a coach is one way to action. Because it creates this structured environment. You come into the first session, you set your goal for the next half a year. Could be an ambitious goal. And then, you're committed to achieving that goal in the next 6 sessions. You're paying money for it. The coach is your accountability partner. And then, within your biweekly 1-hour chunks of time, you'll discuss, what is on your mind, how much progress have you made, what's really in the way of making progress, and creating the homework for yourself. The coach is not going to do your homework. So you're the one as a client coming back home and like, okay, I really have to be honest with myself. These are the things I need to get done to make progress. And I know in 2 weeks I'm going to connect with my coach again, and I'll have to report on the progress. And so, it creates a great system, structured approach to advance towards your goals.
Can you talk a bit more about the framework you have for uncovering the drivers? So you mentioned what is something that makes you wake up in the morning. It's not really coffee, right? Coffee is more of a way or a mean to enjoy the morning. So when you identify the drivers or the reasoning or the why for people to want something and then ultimately to get there, do you have a framework? Like, how do you ask a special set of questions? Maybe, like, how do you understand what people truly want and what actually drives them versus what they think they want and what they think drives them?
There are different ways to go about this. The easiest way is ask it directly. What's the most important thing for you right now? You have to listen, sit and listen without trying to fill in the space. And that puts people in this like introspective mode. And they're like, oh, this is really important for me. Asking a question why is actually the worst question you can ask as a coach. Yes. And the reason is it puts people in defensive mode because they're like, oh, why do you need to know? I don't feel comfortable sharing this. So you don't ask the question why. There are a couple of other ways to really understand what your motivations are. it has to tap into subconsciousness. So you close your eyes and you visualize, what are my goals? What are my dreams? Where I want to be? You can uncover a lot there. And going back to the past and seeing your previous successes and, what really forced you to take that big step and believe in yourself and commit to that goal. It lies in the values, right? So knowing your values is important as well, but like looking back at your own data and understanding what were the key reasons for your own success is likely a good predictor of your future success. The AI and the innovation with the technology, it just made it so easier to start businesses. It's like having your 200 assistants all at once available for free. It's so easy to incorporate the business, to find a product market fit, to create that commercial, post the content. It's like a no-brainer. And yet we're still not actioning on our dreams. Isn't that amazing? So it's all in the brain. It's all the psychology, human psychology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's keep it focused on you and tell us what's next in your life. So obviously, you are going to become a mom. Hopefully, it goes smoothly, and everyone is happy, and you are going to be back. So when you are assuming your new responsibilities, what's your plan for next half a year, 2 years down the road?
Well, I'm still gonna be at Google, assuming all the stars align, and there's this idea of increasing your value in perpetuity. So salary advancements, promotions really help you increase your value in perpetuity. And so it can seem like a small raise for a year, but, advancing yourself within, on the career ladder can yield, cumulative outcome of a lot of money and worth over a longer period of time. So that's really important. I think what's really important in the modern world too is like, can you develop yourself as a thought leader? How are you helping the community? How are you elevating everyone around yourself? So that's what I'm focused on. So sharing the knowledge with my community and people with big ambitions and dreams, just kind of can cultivate that scaled growth mindset around everyone. And I really believe in that as my passion, and I really want to focus on that and share more stories like this, more actionable frameworks and advice, and coach people that got stuck on their road as a founder, not being able to progress to the next level, or a newly hired leader within the corporation that just assume an executive role but don't have experience or practice managing teams. I have a lot of valuable experience within large companies, but also outside of those, I've been working a lot with startups. And so that's where, I'm excited to marry my corporate lands, corporate knowledge, but also like a growth hacker mentality, and help elevate the community around myself. So more motivated than ever. Actually, being a parent or thinking about the idea of a parent is a very motivating factor in life. The reason is now I realize how much less time I have, and I have to focus on my own growth outside of growing a little human. And so I know I have a fraction of time now, and so I have to be relentless prioritizer for my goals. And just having that thought in the last few months, in the last 6 months, really helped me accelerate my own growth and achievements. And like that's in the volume of deliverables and speed to market. Like, I'm able to get stuff done much faster. And I prioritize things that bring the highest leverage for my goals. And all of that, knowing like, oh, I now have like 50% of the time left and I have deadlines. And so it's been a really great motivator for myself. So I'm excited to continue on that journey.
And I do think that it can become your niche, like consulting and seeing people grow and giving them advice in the context of restricted amount of resources and time that they have, such as young parents or parents overall. It might be something that where you can, it is a niche within a niche for sure,
Yeah.
but
Great
the
idea.
narrower you are, the higher is your value within this niche.
That's true.
Yeah. So folks, follow Yuliya. She is extremely valuable resource to anybody who wants to partner up with her, especially if you are a young parent. And I'm just looking forward to see how you're going to bounce back with all the new realizations and all the new knowledge you're going to gain within the next half a year or a year, and then we'll check in. We'll check in again maybe a year from now, and I'm pretty sure that there will be a lot of like just unlimited amount of invaluable knowledge coming from a young parent you, right? And how you can ruthlessly prioritize, which I think is extremely important. Yeah. Tell our folks how they can find you, how can they get in contact with you, and if you offer like half an hour free consultation and whatnot.
Send me a DM on my LinkedIn, Yuliya Bazyleva, at Google, or find me on Instagram, Eva Bloom, Bloum. And I'm happy to chat with you. And within that 30 minutes, we'll be able to actually do real life coaching. So it's not just an introduction and explanation of how things work, but it could be very actionable for you.
Yeah, like any kind of closing words, anything you want your audience to carry away from, take out of this conversation.
If you want to achieve a goal, if you want to make progress on whatever you set for yourself within the business or personal context, having that goal is the most important step. So I have more than a decade of experience working with data and highly ambitious individuals and highly lucrative companies. And the biggest obstacle for them to make progress on anything is having that goal. And then have that test and iterate mindset where you can actually make a step towards that goal. Don't get caught up in having all the data, having all the right knowledge, all the right insights. They'll help you make that step forward. Sometimes you have to have a leap of faith or have a nudge or a gut feeling. Sometimes one little metric can actually provide a lot of insights on how to increase your sales, improve your growth, improve your productivity, get closer to your ambition. So have that goal in mind and do that test and iterate approach where you make a step forward towards that goal. That would be my takeaway.
I love it. I love it. All right, this was Yuliya Bazyleva, the consultant, the marketing scientist. Wonderful mom, I'm pretty sure. And we're going to check in with you like in next year, and I'm pretty sure the advice we're going to get from you will be just tremendous. So folks, follow her. You have all the links, and we're going to see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you. See you on the other side.
Knowing how to navigate ambiguity is one of the hardest skills, but most important skills that every entrepreneur has to have, and every successful leader has to have. So it's amazing that you really lean into that and flexing that muscle.
Yeah. And I can get more specific. So one thing is that it's very helpful to have partners, in my case, business partners who I met through extensive networking. So, well, specifically, both of us are members of Modernist, and the business partner I'm currently with, I met her through Modernist. And long story short, few months after understanding that we were like doing same things pretty much, now we have a magazine going. Speaking of which, hold on.
Wow. Wait, who's
No,
interviewed
you-
whom? That's
have you-
amazing.
I've never showed you this, right? So yeah, this is our
No.
this is
What's
the
the
very first
name?
issue. It's called Moda Raffinata. Moda Raffinata is Italian for fashion refined, and you can see it's a printed copy.
That
You can
looks
see we have
super high quality.
we have a website where we sold 5 copies within first month of this thing out.
What's the website?
Modaraffinata.com. Yeah, so this is our magazine.
Modernraffinata.com.
The Blue F.
Nice. Wow. Congrats.
Thank you.
That's huge. Sometimes I think of social media platforms as the modern form of slavery. This is very controversial. If you
What do you
decide to
mean by
make
this?
money,
Hmm?
if you decide to make money on social media platform, you have to be on 24/7. Everything about your life, you have to think, is this going to be a good content for my audience to enjoy it and engage with? Especially if you're a lifestyle content creator, right? And so just making a reality show of your life is a modern form of slavery. So that's very controversial topic, but I'm pretty much convinced that that's what's happening right now. If you stop posting content, the platforms punish you, and they suppress your ratings, they suppress your viewership, and you essentially can never take a break.
Yeah, you're not wrong about this. I talked to a few folks who are in the industry of content making, and some of them are coming from the professional angle, so they have like hundreds of thousands of followers on LinkedIn through their content, and others are coming from just like funny comedy or just engaging content on other social media platforms. And they do say that, hey, it's important to have some consistency in the way you post. You don't have to push it. Like if you don't feel like posting today, post tomorrow. Okay, but it can be like, you can take a break for like a month. If you take a break for a month, well, maybe it depends on the platform. But say in TikTok, and maybe to less extent on Instagram, if you take a break for a month, then yes, you are going to get less distribution next time you post. I see. So you will have to kind of fight back for access to the audience. And the problem with modern social media is that it gets so saturated that only the top like 1% gets pretty much all the eyes on them. So you have to maintain your ranking within this hierarchy. I would say it's a slavery, but then isn't any kind of job a slavery? Like you have to go to this job every day, I guess.
As you think about your magazines,
Yeah,
and your website as a business model, how are you planning to be more hands-off and scale the effort that you've been putting into this?
yeah, that's a great question. So with magazine industry specifically, the scale comes through multiple mechanisms. So one of them is you should be able to automate selling. You don't have to reach out to each individual customer and explain why they need to buy your magazine. As soon as you gain popularity, as soon as you gain, so that's basically a marketing question. As soon as you develop your own brand, then the sales are coming through either digital media, website, Instagram shops, TikTok shops. YouTube also has shops now, so you can sell this way. you don't really need to maintain full-blown sales department. There are some products where you have to have people selling, but magazine space is not the one that requires sales department. Okay, but then another angle and another mechanism of getting hands off would be you need to, at some point you need to hire staff that ideally can do that job better than you. You need to hire people smarter than you, and then they will actually put things together. They will do the editorial, they will do the printing, they will do the shipping and so on. And at some point you will be able to step out. I don't know if it's possible to fully disengage from the business because there is a risk of losing control this way. So if you are in the driving position, you still want to be able to retain some ability for strategic decisions. Like say things like what are we trying to, what is our message overall? Like say if I do in a special issue, do we want to do a special issue about say politics, right? So we're having elections coming up. Do we want to do a special issue about politics? As you can see, a lot of media outlets are trying to do something about politics because it's such an important issue. Do you want to do this or not? Or if you want to do this, then how you go? What's going to be your tone? Are you going to be biased towards one camp or the other, or are you going to just cover some kind of like middle ground between them and so on? So those are the decisions that are coming from the visionary persona, visionary role in the company, usually the leadership. But outside of that, choosing whichever picture you want to post on each page, I mean, that's something you can delegate to other people. Yeah, but magazine industry it's very old. It's easily maybe 400 years old. You see.
How did you come up with that business idea?
Well, honestly, it wasn't me. It was my business partners.
Eugene, this is very impressive. This is the spotlight of your business launch.
It is, but there are more things going on, and it's only one of the branches.
Well, I'm trying to trace down all the business ventures that you're tackling right now. So I'm here in the magazine. You've been a platform to help designers launch their products and scale their sales.
Yes.
And you're also an events producer.
So
and you have a online platform to produce podcast content, which is what we're doing right now.
I'm going to kind of jump ahead and say that because there is so much going on, as you can see, business-wise, there will be a consolidation and a bit of a, well, not, I can say it's a rebranding, but we'll go by a slightly different name soon. But I won't give you more details yet because my
a teaser.
Yeah, my intellectual property lawyer is actually filing all the paperwork now. So until we get it through and approved, I probably can't disclose much.
Jim, you've been really busy since last time we talked.
Yeah, you see, but it all boils down to, remember how you said figure out your why? Without knowing your why, you probably won't be able to like feel like you're doing anything meaningful.
That is a great coaching question.
Right? Yeah, but as soon as you figure out your why, you everything just falls in place. You know, everything starts to make sense. Because as soon as you figure out your why, you say no to things that are irrelevant, and you say yes to more things that are relevant. And that's how.
What is your why?
So my why was it's a bit lengthy to unfold, but I think since you're asking, so one of them is I figured out that I perform much better when the structure comes naturally to me. So again, it's about being comfortable with ambiguity. So when someone provides structure, and like in corporations, we have a lot of that. It's the point that sometimes it becomes micromanagement. So when there's micromanagement, I just feel like, hey, if you know better than me on how to do things,
Why do you even need me? Okay. Is it because you're my manager? Is it because you just want more of you to do things? How about to just clone yourself in this case? You see, so that's one thing. And some people work better with ambiguity and with having more freedom, but some people are the opposite of this. And a lot of this is also defined by your genetics. So there is a good book that I like to recommend. It's called The Winner Effect.
The Winner Effect.
Yeah, The Winner Effect, Ian Robertson. Yeah, really good book. It's primarily about biology, but biology of humans, which is, well, also society, I would say. A lot about the behavior of men, people with testosterone, but also it explains why a lot of things happen in our society. And apparently, there's a type of people who have different production of hormones and brain chemicals, depending on what kind of activity they are involved in. So some people basically are very comfortable with taking more risk and taking more ambiguity and freedom because their brain chemistry is different. And if you put them in the situation where everything is provided and decided for them and all the decisions are made and it's more about execution, then the brain starts functioning to their max. And well, we can get into depression, we can get into all kind of unhealthy mental states through that. Not everybody though. So usual breakdown is maybe like 80 to 20. There are 20% of people who are that type. Let's call them type A, not same type A as like personality type A. And then there are 80% which is type B. So basically 20% of people are supposed to be like the business owners and the employers, and 80% of people are supposed to be the employees. And yeah, they prefer more structure, a bit less risk, and just do what they need to do, check in at 9 and check out at 5. Yeah.
And you've learned that you're the opposite of that.
Yeah, because I basically sat down and thought about different times in my life where I was doing different kinds of activities, and I tried to capture and register the way I felt about whether I am having a successful life, whether I feel good about myself as I was doing this or not. You see, and it turned out that anytime I had less structure and I was more on my own, I'm talking about being on your own means you have to do something on your own and make your own decisions to get something that you want, compared to someone providing this to you in return of specific ask from you. You see, so I kind of like to go with life and just get what I can out of this life by figuring out how to get there, because it's impossible to do things alone. I just can't get tired of emphasizing that your ability to make alliances and your ability to make friends and your ability to be useful to society without expecting things in return is the paramount of success. This is the primary driver. If you always are looking for ways to gain something, you will not be successful. The most successful people are also people who can engage in charitable contribution. Of course, it's also very important to make sure that there are about 4% of psychopaths. And there's a really good book called Psychopath Next Door. Yes, so Martha Stout from Harvard. So some
Psychopath Next Door. There's like a book.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. There's a YouTube video about it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can read the book, why would you watch a video? Because it's also the most uncomfortable. You know how it's difficult sometimes to force yourself to just, hey, I need to focus on this paragraph, but there are so many things going on that distract me from staying focused and reading. That's because your brain is the most engaged when you read. It's difficult.
Mm.
And usually the things that are difficult are the things that give you the most return. Okay. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there are about 4% of population who are psychopaths, and the psychopaths are incapable of empathy. So it's important to identify them in your surrounding and cut them off, preferably sooner.
Wow.
Yeah. But with everybody else, it works. Just keep doing good things to people and it will come back to you. We can talk about karma. We can talk about like social good and whatnot.
That's such a good lesson.
When you build your own tribe, this tribe is driven by mutual interest and mutual desire to get things done. And you are becoming naturally friends with them. You start caring for them and they start to care about you. And that is how, like, I don't think in this country, if you have desire and ability to do things, you just won't be let down.
You're so inspiring. This is amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
So Eugene, you have
Yes.
so many projects going on for you, and you said you have some interesting tips for AI tools.
Yeah. So specifically, yeah, let's briefly talk about this. So the photography as profession is getting edged out by generative AI, specifically in the photography space. Like now, when you need a photo, you can either use the stock footage, which is already, it's a race to the bottom in terms of prices for stock footage. Because what you can do now is you can go to ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, can you make a photo for me? Okay.
Yeah,
There's
really
Mid-Journey.
impressive.
Yeah, there is Mid-Journey. There's Stable Diffusion, which is a bit rough still. I know they don't have very good UI for Stable Diffusion. At least I wasn't able to find it. Generative AI is not just the tool on its own to generate stuff, but it's also an enhancement tool, such as, say, Photoshop. In Photoshop, if you have a photo which needs some improvement, then you can make it look super realistic, and you can make it look like you've taken this photo yourself, even though your original looks very different. So this is what where generative AI in terms of photos is at this point. So if you're a photographer, you will be able to do more and faster using all those tools. Okay, so I would recommend, of course, Photoshop is the staple. Lightroom now without Photoshop can do generative AI for you. Removing objects super easy, but also you can give it some prompts. Same tendency is in the video space. So one of the tools that I tried is called Runway. And Runway can generate up to 5 seconds of extremely realistic video based on your prompt.
Nice.
Yeah. So half a year ago, it was Sora from OpenAI. A couple interesting developments in the AI space on the legislative side is that in California now it is illegal to hire a deepfake of an actor.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to hire an actual person. That doesn't apply to totally fictionary characters. People who never existed, for example, you still can use them. And that's how we have all those talking heads who can read classes to you. Applications are actually endless here. One very efficient way of using ChatGPT is, say, if you sit on a lecture, all you need to do is basically record the voice. Then there is tooling that translates the voice into text, transcribing.
Otter, right?
Yeah, for example, there are so many of them again. And then you can you can actually download ChatGPT on your phone, and ChatGPT can listen now. So as soon as you have this lecture in ChatGPT, pretty much any question that you're going to get on the quiz can be answered this way. So you don't need to memorize it anymore. I don't think it's okay, because I don't want to go to, like, I don't want to end up on a surgery table with a surgeon who uses ChatGPT, for example, to figure out how to do surgery instead of actually knowing all that. But I also do see folks who are using this kind of technology now in quizzes, in tests, in colleges.
Wow.
If you have a longer video, there are services that will produce smaller chunks that still sound meaningful based on the summarization of the transcripts. So you can see the pipeline looks like you take the video in, you listen through the whole video, you create text, you summarize the text, and then you take most important statements based on the summary, and then you find the time codes in the video and put things together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who
so
does that?
There is no GPT.
ChatGPT can do it.
Yeah, there is
Not AI.
Nota, NOTTA.ai.
Oh, NOTTA.
Yes.